now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Good morning, Sandy. How are you?
Hi. Good morning. Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you just fine.
Perfect.
Do you
Perfect timing.
Do you have an old school track that you want us to play this morning?
Oh, I keep forgetting. Is it Friday already?
Fridays. Yeah, you got to give us a song.
Honestly, it just comes by so quickly. I haven't thought of one yet.
All right. Every Friday, you got to give us a song so we can play it.
I know. I got to think about what was
segment.
my favorite.
We just played some Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing. That's a good track.
Yes.
I want some Cher.
Okay.
Cher. We could play Cher.
I want some Cher.
Cher. I wasn't a huge Cher fan. I kind of feel like that was before my time.
If I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not neither before nor after anyone's time. Cher is
timeless.
Timeless, and I love her.
Did you want If I Could Turn Back Time? Or Believe? Do you believe in love? After love?
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah, that's actually like later Cher. That is your time. That was like the 90s.
Well, pick one. We'll play it next.
Which one do I want? I wanted
If I Could Turn Back Time.
If I Could Turn Back Time is what I wanted.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I love that one.
Sandy, what are the headlines today? What do you got for us?
Oh my God. Mass shooting in Georgetown, central Georgetown.
Wait, what?
A mass
Like,
shooting?
Mass?
Four people
What?
shot. 3 or 4 people shot. Yes.
When?
Last night. So Murphy's
Whoa.
Law, anytime I decide to go to bed early, you can guarantee something major is going to happen. So
Wow.
I went to bed before 1 o'clock, and by 11:30, I woke up. Well, when I woke up this morning, I saw all of the messages There's been like 3-4 people shot in Central. It's just absolutely crazy.
I've never heard that term mass shooting and Cayman in the same sentence.
I am thinking this could be a first, like in a single incident.
Is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Or what happened?
What are the details?
Well, what we know so far is that one young man is dead. We're hearing that, we're hearing possibly another might have died this morning as well.
Get out of here. What is
so
this?
it's just crazy. One person was taken by private vehicle, is another source telling us. It just sounds like mass confusion. We do have some video footage, so that it's just unbelievable.
Is this?
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around.
Is this like family gang related, or is this just random, or is this at a bar? Where did this take place? Do we know?
So it took place in an area called Central, and
like housing? Is it
like was it at people's house?
Residence?
Or
it's kind of close to. Okay, do you know where Funky Tangs is in town?
Yeah,
Behind there's like Zodiac, and they call that area kind of Central.
Yeah, okay.
Georgetown, I would call it Central. So it looks like it happened in that area. Now that area is known to be sometimes a little bit volatile. This isn't the first time that somebody's been shot and killed in that vicinity. So it looks a little bit crazy.
That is a huge story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm sure more information will come out, and
I mean, is that even out there in any other news source? Because I haven't seen that pop up anywhere.
Listen, I barely got time to keep up with what I'm doing, much less what anybody else is up to. Yeah. So I don't even know. It's just that crazy this morning. So yeah.
It is bananas.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you're going to be following that, obviously.
For sure. And we have the Minister of Tourism, who is also the MP for that area, on the show this morning. Quite ironically, he was already booked to come on the show. But yes, we will definitely be following that story, and we'll see, what additional information he may have as well.
Wow.
That is crazy.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
what's popping off. Kind of major.
So. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we are going into a 3-day holiday weekend, so you'll be back on Tuesday with, I'm sure.
One other major thing. My apologies in terms of news. Sometimes one thing can sort of eclipse something else, but we do have a Hurricane Elsa now on our hands as well.
Yeah, but it's much, much better news. It looks like we're out of the path of a projected path. You're right, it is a hurricane. Winds at 75 miles per hour now. And it's projected to go a bit east of us as far as Grand Cayman. And let me just bring up the latest projected path here. It has Grand Cayman out of its projected path Sunday night into Monday, which is great news. Expected to go from a hurricane to a tropical storm when it does pass, which is also great news. And Little Cayman and Cayman Brac just on the fringe of that cone of uncertainty, as they call it.
Yeah.
So hopefully over time, it's still plenty of time before it heads our way, right? A couple of days. So maybe it'll drift a bit more north and east of us, which would be great news.
Yep, absolutely. And you guys have an event this weekend, so I'm hoping that it doesn't.
Yeah,
we do. We have the Rib Fest, which is coming up on Sunday. So I think it's going to be fine on Sunday, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
the event starts at 11:30. Again, it's not gonna hit Grand Cayman. So if anything, we're just gonna get some rough surf,
rain,
and maybe some rain bands later on, but not till Sunday night.
Yeah.
So hopefully, nice weekend. And
yeah, where are we gonna see you at the Rib Fest? What are you gonna do?
So. Yeah, I'm thinking that I will be able to show up.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, cool. Otherwise, we will see you enjoy 4th of July and also Constitution Day on Monday. Are you going to be around for festivities on Monday? Is there anything happening?
I think there is one of the government offices is having some sort of a fireworks show or something. So I may do that or not.
There are scheduled fireworks at Camana Bay as well on Monday.
Oh, they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that happens or not.
Oh,
I think those fireworks will be fun on Monday night too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So
Well, hopefully.
enjoy the weekend, Sandy.
Thank you. You guys do as well.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
We'll keep checking CMR to find out the latest on this shooting incident.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Check out Sandy now. She's starting on live on CMR, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Aaron's Dirty is coming up.
All right, folks. And we're also on Instagram this morning as well. We do have a few people joining us in IG. So good morning to all of those persons. We've got, let me just see here, Chunks, Island Girl 2104, Alexandria, Tony, KYJM, some of these names, Suryo, Man's Photography, Francisco, some of your names I cannot read because they're in all sorts of gibberish languages. Shanae, Romeo, Ingrid, Alan, Rob, big shout out to Tamisha, Mr. Joseph, Nordraw. Yeah, I'll pick some of the most interesting IG names. Thank you guys so much. Michael, Sheena, we've got Kai, Matthew, 2 Matthews actually on IG this morning. Nick and Nicholas, Vision Media, big shout out. Jen is watching us. Amy Ray, Dwayne, Brian, Lucy, Gabriella, Ricardo, Fayati, what's up? Let me see who is on. We've got 283 people between YouTube and Facebook. So good morning to Marshall joining us from North Carolina. We've got Brandon who's got it locked. So good to see you. Anne Marie is here. Karen is here from the UK. Leroy is here from Georgetown. Winston joining us all the way from Jamaica, he says. Not that far, but from Jamaica. Anthony, Janet, good morning, Sanya. Helen is here. Irvelyn, Olivia, Jonathan, thank you. He says, shout out, happy Independence Day, advance to all of our U.S. citizens. Yes, and Cayman obviously celebrating that exact same holiday. Good morning to Bonnie. Miss Emma, thank you for joining in. She says, Friday blessings to everyone. Alice, good morning to you. Good morning, Miss Morna. Mr. Cayman Vlogs is shocked at what he heard this morning. Trust me, we all are a little bit shocked. He says, mass shooting, question mark? Yeah, it's crazy. We're going to talk about it here in a second while we're waiting on the minister to come on. Tommy is here. Michael, thank you. Yeah, so Elsa is up to Category 1 storm. We will check out her path a little bit later on in the morning. Good morning to Larry. Good morning, Richie. Larry joining us from New York. Richie is right here. Sue, good morning. Jean, thank you. Anna, Bruce. We haven't seen you in a minute, Bruce. Where have you been? So good to see you. He says this type of event that we see unfolding in Central will become the norm unless the government decides to get serious about violent crime in the Cayman Islands. Let's not pretend that we did not see this coming. Marshall says, what in the world is going on in Cayman? All these guns, these authorities need to get a grip on the gun issue and fast. This is not good. Tracy, good morning. She's saying crazy headlines this morning. What's going on? Hi, Hans. Sharm is here. We've also got Roderick joining us. Louis from Detroit. Thank you so much. Miss Vernita is here. Jennifer, Roderick. Flashpoint, thank you. Flashpoint says our society has been in decline for some time. The pandemic has only escalated the pace and decline, and we need to get our heads out of the sand before it's too late. Good morning, Miss Beulah. Let me see here. So lots of people inquiring about what happened. And we are trying to get a fix on all the details. Of course, it's still developing. We do know for sure that one person is dead. Caesar, good morning. Caesar says police already know about this place because it's been like this for so many years, but they don't do nothing because either they're afraid or they're getting income from illegal businesses that people do behind that bar. Wanda, good morning. Um, so yes, I mean, I don't think that they're probably afraid, or I don't think that's necessarily what happens. But I think what is going on is that we do have these flare-ups for a number of different reasons, and we seem to not be getting it under control. So one of the most amazing things that I always find particularly interesting is, a lot of times when we hear about these drug boats coming in to the Cayman Islands, a lot of individuals say, well, what's the big deal? Oh, it's just a little bit of marijuana, it's a little bit of cocaine, it's a little bit of whatever. But normally what's happening is when those vessels come in, they also bring in firearms. And this is a very serious situation, because the more guns that we have on this island, obviously, the more likely that something like this is actually going to pop off and is going to happen. So, on the one hand, violence is systemic in the sense that, we obviously need to address the underlying issues that lead to this type of violence. Some of those underlying issues, as you can appreciate, do not get resolved overnight. So when you talk about, addressing issues related to education, poverty, and all of these other things, you have to understand that those fixes don't happen overnight. You start with addressing them, and that's why we do our best to ensure that at the end of the day, people are having the resources available for them to improve their lives, and that they don't have to turn to drugs and violence and all these other things to try to resolve anything, whether it's what they perceive as an economic issue, or other things. So it's all in a way interconnected, right? But those issues didn't develop overnight. This isn't just last week. We've had gangs in Cayman for a very long time, and we have had drugs in Cayman for a very long time. We have had, money laundering, drugs. We were used as a transport location in the 80s, 70s, and 80s at the height of the marijuana and cocaine trade when there was little to any, uh, I would dare say, restrictions in place. So at the end of the day, we can't now pretend like, as Bruce said, that we didn't see this coming. Of course, we saw it coming. It's still shocking, because when you hear the term mass shooting, what you normally think is America, another crazy person in a mall or something, or Jamaica or Honduras or somewhere else. But, what we need to recognize is that it just isn't that simple for us to be pointing at other people. We need to start looking in the mirror. Um, so, um, I just feel like we need to start addressing these issues. But normally, what happens is something like this happens. We have the discourse or the conversation for all of 5 minutes. By next week, everybody forgets about it, and we just go back to our own lives, and everybody feels safe, and they're like, okay, what's the big deal? Last night it was in Central, but one day it's going to be in all of our neighborhoods. So I'm afraid that this is not an issue that we can just continue to pretend doesn't exist. We need to get the guns off the streets for sure, because it's a lot harder to kill 4 or 5 people or to shoot 4 or 5 people if you simply don't have a gun. Even if you have a knife, it's a lot harder to do significant damage to multiple people with a knife. Not impossible by any means, because we've seen it happen, but it is more challenging. So gun violence in particular, and firearms give people access to be able to harm people in a very quick way. Let's put it that way. They're easily accessible. And even in terms of shooting someone, you can shoot someone from a little bit of a ways off, from a distance. That's very different than getting up close and personal and actually stabbing them. And logistically, they require two different things. So I think on the one hand, we have issues that clearly we need to address. I think the police probably are even at a loss for what they need to do. Yes, they need to be doing more raids, but listen, how many times have the police not raided not down in Central, but right across the street, where they know there's illegal immigration, there's gambling going on, there is, prostitution, because we're importing all sorts of people that are engaging in prostitution. And we can't pretend like, oh, prostitution's okay, gambling's okay, and we're only going to be concerned about the bigger things, the gun crime and all this other stuff. You unfortunately have to address it all, because with the numbers game, for example, comes a lot of other things. There are people in Cayman who've been stabbed to death, they've been shot, they've been robbed. The last robbery that we had at the barbershop, everybody's saying that that happened at that barbershop because everybody knows that that's a location where you go and get numbers. And so that they were likely targeted because they felt like there was money there. There's a lot of money in the numbers business. I have heard of an individual in Cayman who moves easily a couple $1,000,000 in a short space of time, like a couple weeks, right? So that's how much money people are spending here on illegal gambling. And if you know someone has a couple $1,000,000, or they're rolling with like, 25, 30, 50 grand a day, and they can't just walk up to the bank and be like, I'm going to deposit $50,000 into my account now, cash. And the bank isn't going to be like, okay, you need to explain this to us. They're having to do other things with that money. They're having to hide that money and get involved in other things. And for their own protection, they're probably packing some heat. They have people around them who they're paying for protection. I mean, I've even heard crazy stories about police protection for some of these people who are in the numbers business, which to me is a little crazy, if that is true. It's just quite shocking, to be quite frank and honest, that this is the world that we now live in, and Cayman is part of that really super crazy world. But I do think that we need to get it under control. What are the solutions? I can't sit here and tell you that I have all the answers. I might have some ideas, but I think collectively as a community, we need to figure out what some of the solutions are. Because the thing is, not everyone is involved in criminal activity, but everyone is impacted by crime. And so that's super sad. Um, so it's unbelievable. We do have video footage of you know what went down last night. I'm going to show you guys the video footage. Obviously, those folks on Instagram are not going to be able to see it. But if you're on Facebook or YouTube, then you will be able to see it. I'm going to show you a photo of at least one person that has died as a result of this incident. No one seems to know who he is. In terms of, I mean, I've gotten some indication, I guess, but a few people have said to me that the guys involved in this seem to be largely Jamaican residents that might have, married Caymanians or whatever. I don't know who they are. So I personally do not know who these guys are, but I think at the end of the day, whether they're Caymanians or Jamaicans at this point hardly matters, in the sense that, we have such a mixed community here, of persons who have integrated. They are, married to Caymanians, they have Caymanian children, and guess what? They're not going anywhere. Even when we try to deport them for cause, the courts still say, oh, they have a right to family life. So reconsider all of their options, So someone has just said that the deceased young man, that his family is actually from Sound Road, but he was raised in Jamaica. And he unfortunately is a person that is confirmed by all sources at this point this morning to be dead. So just shocking information. Again, I think a lot of um, our thoughts are obviously going out to anyone involved in this incident. It's hard to understand how this could have happened. I'm thinking within hours we will start to hear some of the stories sort of flowing out of this. Marshall, good morning. It says, sadly, this isn't the first time that there's been this type of gun violence down in the East. I'm a Georgetowner, folks, but believe me when I tell you, I'm actually no expert. So this area is called the East as well as Central, and it's right behind kind of like the Funky Tangs area. I think Kenneth can probably enlighten us a little bit, although that's not what he's here to talk about this morning. He is the MP for that area. Marshall says it's happened years ago and then it dies down, but they spring back up from time to time. Something needs to be done to curb the gun violence, especially in such a small society. Valda says unemployment idleness. I don't think that this has anything to do with unemployment idleness, because I think that unfortunately a lot of persons involved in this lifestyle are not the persons that want to work. So, it's not like you can say solve the unemployment problem and you necessarily solve their issues. Their issues go deeper. Gun violence, gang activity, and that sort of thing normally isn't about just employment opportunities. These are kids who grew up in problem environments that you need to grab from day one. So let's have a look at the video. Like I said, viewer discretion advised. If you are hypersensitive to anything, I would suggest that you not watch this video. You turn the phone over or whatever you got to do. We have almost 500 people watching on Facebook, between Facebook and Instagram this morning. We do have quite a number of persons actually watching on the website as well. The story has clearly gone viral. Okay, so now we're starting to get some reasons as to what's going on, some possible motive. So let me play this. I'm just gonna ask or IG folks to hang on one second. I'm actually gonna cap there's IG presents several issues, but there's no way for me to the other one I'm gonna play the video. But for IG, I can't actually even hide my screen. So I'm going to literally put the lens cap on. So give me a second. We'll play the video and then we'll be right back after this. I got it. I guess you didn't see my message. Okay, folks. So yeah, this is an unfortunate situation this morning that has occurred. So we do have a number of people giving some feedback. So good morning to Miranda. Miranda says, please pay attention. Roadblocks to beg bribe money. All else is ignored. I don't think that that's a fair assessment of what they do. I mean, listen, when the two shootings happened recently, and there was the one down by Everglow in town, and then the one on West Bay Road, the police, I think, realized that something was afoot, and they needed to get a hold of it. So the truth of the matter is, they were out there. Remember, they had the incident by A.L. Thompson's, and then the one by CUC, where they were arresting people. It was broad daylight. They had this huge operation. They were actually out there doing that because they believe that these things are somehow connected to gang activity. So what we have one astute person now saying this morning is that the shooting on West Bay Road the other day was allegedly committed by a Central man, and they came back to retaliate, not knowing that the target wasn't there. This is what is now being alleged. And so an innocent man and others hurt of just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, that is one thought process. So we do have the minister joining us this morning. So we're going to go ahead and bring him in. Like I said, he wasn't here to discuss this, but unfortunately it's very topical. So I'm sure he'll have a few words in relation to it as well. Good morning, Minister Bryan. How are you?
Good morning, Sandra. Good morning to your listening audience. Hopefully everybody can hear me well.
Yeah, you sound great. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure as always.
So, Kenneth, obviously we have a captured audience this morning, which I suppose is good for you, regardless of what your message is, but it's not under the best conditions. We've got over 500 people between Instagram and YouTube, and then, Facebook and YouTube. And then we have some other folks, another 30-ish on Instagram, and some people are watching from the website as well. I know you probably are not in a position to say very much about what happened in your constituency late last night, but what are your thoughts at the moment before we get into addressing some employment and tourism related matters?
Thank you, Sandra. First thing I want to say is my sympathy goes out to the family members who, the victims involved. For the victims involved, I'm praying for them to get through this difficult time. As the representative and as the Caymanian period, I'm saddened about last night's event. I was made aware by the necessary authorities, and I visited the scene last night. I'm not happy that it happened again in a very familiar area, like you have said. And this is a location that has been haunted by this behavior for some time. I've been informed that the police have launched a severe investigation into the matter, and I know the police will do their job and try to find as much information in respect to what transpired, and catch those persons responsible for this. I ask the public, for those who may be aware of anything, to reach out to persons you trust, or the police department, to inform them of anything that you know. We have to get a handle on matters such as this, as it's destroying our communities and our country and people's lives. So at this particular point, I can't say very much. Again, I sympathize with the family members, and just to let my community members know from Georgetown Central specifically, I'm very concerned about this matter. And I will be reaching out with the police after they've been able to gather the necessary information that they have to in the first, what they call the first 48 hours, allow them to do their job. We'll have a chat with the police commissioner as to the best steps moving forward, not only for Georgetown Central, but for the Cayman Islands. I think it's all fair to say that we've had a bit of an increase over the last 3 weeks to a month, and serious crimes. I'm certain that the police commissioner is making the proactive steps to try to get a handle on this. But specifically for my community, what efforts and things that we can do in the central area to prevent this from happening anymore. I have some ideas, but I'll keep them to my chest for now until further notice. But I am concerned, and I commit to the people of Georgetown Central that we'll try to put some more strategies in place to stop this kind of behavior, not only in our constituency, but across the island.
Thank you so much for that. Good morning to Aldenton, Pamela, Mitchell, Chanel, Abigail is here watching as well. Julie. We'll go through some of these comments a bit later on. The minister has some limited time with us this morning. Benji is also watching. Benji is one of those tourism industry people that has been impacted. So Benji, you'll want to pay close attention to what the minister has to share this morning as well. So, Minister, you were originally booked to come on the program to discuss a really important matter as it relates to tourism, because obviously this government is keen to, number one, reopen the borders safely and as safe as possible during this COVID situation. And number two, to really assist people in the tourism industry to get back to work, which is why we're reopening the borders so that people can get back to work and be, sufficient, self-supportive. They're able to pay their bills. They don't have to rely on a small stipend from government. They can earn their keep, which I think the vast majority of people understand the necessity to be able to do that. And surely, the government appears to be prepared to take on a number of initiatives to try to help people in every possible way. So one of the things that the government has been doing from the previous government is providing this monthly stipend. And I think it's important for people to recognize, and we've said it before, but just for the sake of clarity, that the stipend is not something that can continue. The government just doesn't have a bottomless pit of money. There's no magical gold, what do you call it at the end of the rainbow? Bucket or whatever.
Gold pot.
Gold pot. Yes, thank you, Kenneth. So there's no magical gold pot that the government can just keep producing money out of. So as the government works to try to get people back to work, particularly who are in the tourism industry, who've been receiving the stipend, you guys have sought to get some clarity on what their individual positions are, which I think is really important. So tell us a little bit about the logic behind the survey, and perhaps even if you know what some of the survey questions are and what you'll be doing with that information.
Again, thank you, Sandra, for allowing me to be on the show to speak about this matter. Like you correctly said, we launched this survey on the 23rd of June. And the purpose of the survey was to ask persons who are receiving the stipend a number of questions so we can get some data so we can make some necessary decisions in respect to how to get Caymanians re-employed back into the tourism industry as we step closer and closer to a reopening date. Just by way of background, which I know everybody does know already, but just it's important that we bring it up. The pandemic has caused a large number of Caymanians, a large number of Caymanians to be out of work as a result of the pandemic closing our borders. Now, as we move closer to the reopening, we know that the tourism sector does depend on a large number of foreign labor. But as this government puts Caymanians first, our priority is how to ensure that those who were laid off or put on temporary work are the top priority to get back to work when those jobs become available again. So after a series of discussions with industry stakeholders, particularly that of the CITA, Cayman Islands Tourism Association, we found it prudent that in order to give best opportunity for Caymanians is to have a proper assessment of those who have been displaced. So you know that we have a large pool of Caymanians who are receiving the stipend to the tune of 3,300 and odd. That number will increase because, as you know, recently we have opened the stipend application for a week, and numbers look like they're about close to 400, if not more. But my team is currently assessing that. So we may be well over 3,500 persons who's receiving the stipend. And the more I've assessed the circumstances of persons who are affected by the pandemic, the more I realize the seriousness of job losses in the community. So with that in mind, we launched the survey on the 23rd of June of this year, and the purpose of it was to collect as much information as we possibly can to help bring them back into the community as we partner with Cayman Islands Tourism Association. So they are going to start hiring again, and our focus is to make sure you hire out of our block first of Caymanians who have been displaced before you decide to apply for work permit holders. Now, I know that this has caused some, forgive me, my eyes are watering this morning. Um, I know that has caused some persons to think that we're taking a very strong approach or stranglehold on the community, but as legislators and as this administration, putting Caymanians first, that's our job to ensure that Caymanians come first. So how do we do that? And we decided to do that by giving them the necessary information that they need. So every stipend recipient was obligated because it's mandatory to complete this a survey, and the survey ends today. And the survey had questions on it, like to try to find out things like how many persons want to return back to tourism, what areas of tourism were you in, whether you were in stayover, whether you were in cruise, what kind of work did you do? Work in the hotel? Did you work in water sports? What's your age bracket? And what kind of job did you do? How many hours? How many hours are you currently doing? Are you fully off the books in respect to not working, or sorry, forgive me, or do you do work part time? Because there's some people who are still working, but as you know, with the very little amount of work and in tourism, much of their compensation is filled with gratuities. And if there's no passengers, then or visitors, then there's very little gratuities for you to receive. So ultimately, persons may be making 2 days work, 3 days work, but at the very bare minimum, lower than low season. So you have very low amounts per hour, as well as very limited hours. So persons will still be receiving the stipend. And I want to make sure for those who are listening, not be scared that if you do the survey, that you're going to lose your stipend. Eventually, we will get to the stage of assessing whether what time or when we should close off the stipend, but that is not right now. We have a long way before that, so feel comforted that the stipend will not be stopped anytime soon until we get a full handle on our economy. So the most important thing of today, though, even though I've said so much long-windedness, the most important thing today, though, is to let the public know that so far we've had 2,700 people take the survey online. And I'm very grateful for those persons who've done their due diligence and gone online and done the survey. And we estimate there's still another 600 or more out there. So we're extending the survey as of today. Most people would have known it ended today, but we're going to continue it on until let me see. Let me make sure I got the date right here. Until Tuesday evening, so that gives enough people enough time to be able to get to the survey, because it's mandatory. If you don't do it, then we're going to have to come and find you to make sure you do it, because the data is so vital. And we recognize also that there's not everybody who has access to the technology to go online. I think that should be a very small amount. So that 600 that is outstanding right now, we're hoping that between now and Tuesday, that number will dwindle down to probably less than 200, if not even less. That way we can offer those persons who may be having trouble with the technology part of it, or the ability to fill it out, that we'll be able to assist them in person with my Department of Tourism team. So the key things to remember is that it's extended from today until Tuesday. I can't even remember the date for Tuesday. I don't think I have it here in my notes.
Tuesday is the 6th, actually.
The 6th, yes. And if you are listening and you are not familiar with how to get that done, you can go on to the website, which is stipend.ourcayman.ky. And I think, Sandra, you rightfully have the forgive me, I'm going to turn off the camera here because my eyes are seriously being affected here. You have the website up there. Thank you so much for that. And if anybody has any questions, if they have concerns, They can email the department at stipend@caymanislands.ky, or they can call the office directly at 949-0623. Again, that is 949-0623. And this survey is only for persons who are receiving the stipend at the moment. As I said before, the survey is a step-by-step walkthrough. It's pretty easy. You're going to have an ID to upload, and the IDs that we would like is obviously a government recognized one, like your voter's ID or Cayman Islands driver's license or a passport. All it takes is for you to fill out the form and upload a picture of your ID, whether you're using your computer at home, or if you want to take a picture of the ID before you start to do the survey from your phone. And when you get to the point where you say upload, you press the button, it'll take you to your gallery of pictures within your phone, and then you select your ID and then you send it that way. So yes, the website will be opened until Tuesday. It's mandatory. These questions are not here to seek a way to stop you from getting your money, but more so for us to be able to plan better for the future of tourism in respect to labor matters. It is our goal to ensure as many Caymanians who want to go back to the tourism can go back to tourism, as we start to see businesses that are tourism related start to ramp up and start asking for employees to come back to that job. I want to talk one more thing before I let you chime in here. I know many people have had concerns about the loss of the stipend. I want to ensure those who are listening that this government recognizes that this is not a absolute situation, and we will not be taking absolute approaches. We have to monitor as we go along, see how successful our reopening strategies work, how successful are the job placements within that reopening strategy work. And if we see that it's running successful, obviously the ultimate goal is to get people back to work, so we don't have to spend that large over $5 million a month cost that obviously is the taxpayers' money. So if we are successful, then we can slowly go back to that natural place of you depending on your own income. But obviously the first reopening is going to do that in a very slow manner, not a slow manner, but a very measured manner. I think all data shows that there's a large amount of people who want to come here. That don't necessarily mean we want to open the floodgates right away. We want to make sure we do it in a measured, controlled way. So maybe within the 40 to 60% range of what you would normally have on a boosting year, right? That means that persons may not make as much money as they once did in efforts to keep the country safe. So we may still need to assist persons with some amounts. And hence the reason why you saw that I decided to reduce the amount of the stipend in the month of November and December, because our predictions are that we hope that people are working, and the numbers of persons coming to the island by then should give those who are back in the industry, back working again, some level of income, and that $750 can supplement together. Now, it's important to note that obviously if things don't go as planned, it is government's responsibility to help assist our public. So I didn't want to say this yet, but if we find ourselves in a situation where things are not going well, it is my obligation and my goal to make sure that I find the necessary monies to keep us at the 1,500. But the government is doing everything it can to put opportunities available for you to be the first priority in respect to jobs. So the government also expects those who are not working to go out there and play their part by registering with the work department and being mindful of all the job vacancies that may pop up online or in your local newspaper, or you see broadcast as the various hotels, condominiums, water sports companies, and get in touch with your old bosses if you are off totally, to see whether there's opportunities for you to go back. because again, the government's position is those persons who were in the industry before that are Caymanian and married to Caymanian has to be the first priority before looking for outside labor. But as I say that, I am mindful that there are businesses who are concerned about that the government may not want to allow them to have outside labor at all, and that's definitely not the case. We are well aware that there is not enough Caymanians on island that are prepared to go back to tourism, and there wasn't before the lockdown. So what we're saying is that we have to make sure that our Caymanians are addressed first, and they're given the first opportunity at getting back to work before we supply the outside labor or allow the applications to be approved for outside labor. That's all we're saying. Caymanians first. It's pretty simple. It's not draconian or anything. It's just a matter of prioritizing our people. So once that is resolved, and we're working on that right now, and this part of this survey, the data from the survey will be passed on without the personal part, like your name and your telephone number, but the data results will be passed on to CETA and work. Work will get the more sensitive stuff because it's a government agency, so they can reach out to persons when the industry starts to post these jobs, to say, okay, we have 25% of them in the hotel industry. Can we match up that the Ritz or the Westin has said they need another 150 people, to be in that, or 200 people, for example, that we can match that up and actually have telephone numbers, emails, and addresses, and so forth. So that's the game plan. But the data, believe it or not, I got the results, the preliminary results of how many people have taken. Thank you, mommy. My mom is so considerate. She saw me online and came to give me some tissues. That's how awesome she is. The data results have been showing some early signals, and I look forward to sharing that with the public in the future. And basically, some things like, it's surprising that on the graph, majority of the people are in the senior areas. If you looked by age group and you went from the youngest, the graph is here, and as you get older, the graph goes higher by way of percentage of persons in the industry. So it tells us there's a lot of older persons attracted to it, or it depends on how you read that. It could be that, it's the older Caymanians who used to be in tourism that is still there. That means that we're failing on transitioning younger Caymanians into the industry. There's a number of analyses that you can do and study this data to help us make the right decisions to secure job opportunities in our second pillar in our major pillar in our economy. And obviously we hope that maybe a year from now or earlier, or potentially 2 years from now, when the world has passed this pandemic, we can understand better the information and make stronger long-term decisions that will benefit the country and secure jobs for Caymanians. So that's the purpose of this data, not to undermine anybody, or not to try to stop them from getting assistance. That's not the government's goal. The government's goal is to ensure that those who need the money will get the money. Now, I am fully aware that there are claims that some people who are abusing the system, and that will always happen no matter what system you use. And though it has to be addressed eventually, the priority right now is to try to use the data to get persons back to work. As we get closer to the reopening, and we are certain that if there are abusers out there, they'll have a job opportunity, we'll start to examine those and address them in the appropriate way. But again, I want to say that for the stipend recipient, you're obligated to take the survey. It's mandatory, like I said before, and the purpose of it is just to gather the necessary information to give you first preference at opportunities that are there, and work with our stakeholder partners to match up the right skill sets with the right jobs as they come along. So again, if you haven't done the survey, you may have known that it would end today, but it's been extended until Tuesday at 5 p.m. Let me just double check if my notes have because I don't see where I had got some notes done from before. Yes, I know it's still Tuesday. And you said Tuesday the 5th, I think, 6th,
Tuesday is the
Sandra?
6th.
The 6th. So
Yep.
6 at 5 p.m.
Okay.
So make
So
sure
they
that
need to,
you,
they need to update the website because the deadline is no longer today.
yes. Yeah, well, they wanted to wait till I actually officially announced it. And of course,
Okay.
we're going to announce it first here on CMR.
I
So
appreciate that.
once I get off the show, the
Then
team
they'll
is
update it.
listening and they will update that. So
Okay. So for the
until the announcement is
benefit
done.
of our listeners on Instagram, because I know that they don't hear you quite as well as our Facebook and YouTube viewers, just for their benefit, please keep in mind that this is the stipend survey. And if you are a recipient of the Displaced Tourism Employee Stipend, you should be taking this survey. It is a mandatory survey. So if for some reason you don't take it, they will track you down essentially and ensure that they get the information from you. So about 600 persons are still missing from, they've got a list of recipients of funds and a list of people who've taken the survey. And there is a difference of about 600 people. So if you're one of those 600 people, folks, please ensure that you log on. You can do it obviously from a computer or a phone. I've pulled it up here to just kind of show how easy it is. The website, I have it scrolling on the little ticker for the YouTube and Facebook viewers. Instagram, I'll see if I can copy it and put it there for you as well. So you just click on the button that says take survey, and then it's going to ask you for questions. As you can see here, it confirms that it's only for existing stipend persons, and it gives you a little bit of information. If you have any questions, you can email stipend@caymanislands.ky. You're going to need some form of an ID, whether it's a voter's registration card, Cayman Islands driver's license, or passport. And again, you can just take a photo with your phone of those documents. Let me just say, I always tell people, just as good practice, to keep a copy of your ID in your phone in any event, because sometimes you go to places and you don't have your wallet. You can just whip out your phone, right? So it's a simple survey: name, email address if you have one. It looks like that field is mandatory, so I guess you better have one. Mobile phone number, date of birth, type of ID you're going to be uploading, and then you click on this choose file here, and then you'd find it wherever it's at on your phone or whatever. Gender, marital status, do you have transportation, your district. So some pretty basic questions, your age group. And again, they're trying to figure out where you were working in tourism. Now, a few people are making mention of the fact that, in their opinion, there are people who are abusing the stipend program. Let me just remind you, because someone reminded me of this a couple of days ago, and I thought it was an important point to make note of. Someone said, in fact, there weren't any criteria stipulated at the start of this, which was done under the progressive government, for anyone to receive the stipend. It was for displaced tourism workers. I guess that's probably the only criteria, but they never said you have to not be working and you need to prove that you're not working and all this other stuff. So, there is that consideration, folks, that it's really not about people necessarily being dishonest. It's just that if no criteria were set and they were in the tourism industry, whether it was driving a taxi, dive sectors, hotel accommodations, housekeepers, whatever, they have, applied for and received the stipend. So, folks, I think that there's a lot of people who have been hurting because of the pandemic. And this is one of the reasons why, again, this goal of trying to reach 80% vaccination levels is so incredibly important, because if we don't get there, we can't reopen and these people can't get back to work. And that hurts a lot of people. That doesn't just hurt people who are in tourism. It hurts everybody else who relies on that tourism dollar. And there's a humongous trickle down effect from restaurants to even the gas business. When you think about it, right? They're in the business of providing services to a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the hotels and so on. And if those facilities are closed, everybody's bottom line is ultimately impacted. So folks, it's a very easy survey from the looks of it.
It is pretty straightforward, Sandra. If I can just let you know that the website has been updated. If you just refresh it, you will see that it says now the 6th of July.
Yeah, just like that.
My team is
real time updates on CMR.
Yeah, my team is the best team in the government, the Ministry of Tourism, the Department of Tourism. I am so honored to be their minister. But
Yes.
that being said, in respect to the criteria, you rightfully said that there was none set, so to speak, not a very strong one that will identify persons who are most in need compared to those who may have another job. Now, I understand and why that may not have been the top priority at the time, because when the stipend came into play, we were in full lockdown. We're certain that nobody's working. Some people
Mhm.
have gotten back to work, some people have not. Right now, even if they were working um, in this current market in tourism, the market is so limited they would never really be making, particularly on a gratuity basis,
Mhm.
anything close to what they were making before. Hence the reason, as minister, as I assessed that when came in, I said, you know what, this is not a time to be considering trying to take away people's money. They're going through enough difficulty as it is. But I can promise you that as it is my job to be prudent with the people's money and taxpayers' money, that once we are to that stage where we know there's opportunities there, it is your obligation and your moral right to everybody else to go ahead and start looking for work again, because the government is doing its job to ensure that you become the first priority on these job opportunities. So if you get back to work, you lessen the burden on the on the larger public, so we can reduce those costs and therefore ultimately be out of the deficit that we're currently in. So it's a strategy, but I don't want those public members who are receiving this to think this
Mhm.
administration is going to leave them behind, because I've heard the little whispers to say, oh, the minister's come in, he wants to take away the stipend.
Mhm.
That is definitely not the case. You would never find a more caring politician in respect to the difficulties people face.
Mhm.
But there is persons who will use this system and abuse it and try not to even go and find work. And if they believe that the money will always be there, they will not take the initiative to go out and seek work when the government is trying its endeavor best to mandate that they are the priority. We've seen signs of this overseas, where the United States are having difficulty finding service workers, and much to blame to that is the grants for unemployment that are continuing to come in from the current administration of the Biden group. So I don't want that to happen here. I don't want us to have a dependency feel to build up over time. You have to be mindful that the government will take the necessary steps to put you first in respect to job opportunities. But if you
Mhm.
don't take the steps to go find it, the money will not be there eventually. The other thing I'll say before wrapping this up is that I am considering and I want to investigate with my team the eventuality, depending on how long this pandemic takes hold, a transition of the stipend away from the Ministry of Tourism. Ultimately, I think it's fair to say that this is actually an unemployment grant.
Mhm.
It shouldn't really be within the Ministry of Tourism. I think it was the most easy way, I guess. I wasn't there with the last administration why they put it under them. But my ministry is not, and my department is not equipped to do those steps of financial checking and investigations of who deserves and who doesn't. Hence the reason I haven't probed that direction at this point. But if we are going to take those steps, I think it's either one or two things will have to happen. My team gets more employees, which is added cost again, to be able to do those necessary investigations to make sure those who are getting it are deserving of it, or this grant be passed on to a more efficient department that is already doing such things like the needs assessment unit, who are skilled in questioning whether a person's is employed, where they're working, how much they're making, what their expenses are, and all of those different types of things.
Mhm.
Um, but my hope is that by January of next year, we wouldn't have to have this conversation, because we're going to put Caymanians first. We're going to get them back in those jobs. We're going to open our borders. We're going to make sure that we're safe. We're going to get to our 80% herd immunity concept, and then the people are going to get back to work. They're going to get those gratuities back up in high peak season, and Caymanians will be able to survive once again. So that's our goal. Again, in closing, I want to say that this survey has been extended from today until the 6th of July, and it's a mandatory step for all persons who are receiving the stipend $1,500 allotment. Now, there's currently 600 people outstanding. Hopefully, between now and Tuesday, it'll be a lot less. If you want to reach out or have any questions of the Ministry of Tourism or the Department of Tourism, you can always call 949-0623. That is 949-0623, or email them at stipend@caymanislands.ky. Sandra, as usual, you're amazing, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I wish I could stay on longer because you know me, I like to talk. But I got a lot of work to do today. So if
Yes.
I got about another 7 to 8 minutes to wind up if you want to ask any questions.
Well, just a few comments from our viewers. So Bonnie says government needs to have someone maybe do some house visits and an interview because some people are collecting rent and also getting from NAU. This is just not right. Remember, they can put anything on the form. If someone applies for PPRF, they get visited by a social worker for an interview. So why not do the same here now? I think the minister has addressed that in terms of when we're in lockdown. It was more about just trying to get people some sort of assistance to stay afloat. I think, in all honesty, the vast majority of people, are going to be honest in situations like this. There's always going to be those few that are looking to take advantage of any system. And I'm sure that this is, there's no exception in this situation as well. But as he rightfully said, the way forward is probably to move this out of tourism and align it with an agency or department that has the personnel to already do that and perhaps the skill set to do the necessary research as well. So Ellen says good morning to a few people watching. Chris, good morning. Rocket is joining us this morning. Gadiel says the stipend isn't going to cover everything. So maybe NAU's picking up the slack. So that's another perspective. And that's true. I mean, let's be honest. True. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest here. $1,500, depending on what you've got in terms of rent and mortgage, might not even cover that, much less food and other things. So if they're really not working, they may very well need assistance from more than one avenue. So Ms. Sue says in the UK, the same with the furlough they've been receiving and nobody was going back to work. They know how to work the system. They just stopped it now. Blissful Powell says, fair enough, Mr. Kenneth. Elizabeth says, hire me and I can get the job done. Jeanette is says page not found. I think it could be that they were actually just updating the information on it, Jeanette. So they have literally just updated the date on the survey as we were speaking. So I would say just refresh. I'll put the survey link here again. And if you know someone, folks, this is where we are our brother's keeper. If you know someone who's in tourism who you're aware has been getting the stipend and they don't have access to the internet, they don't have computer, whatever, allow them to use your phone to upload and fill out their form or help them fill it out. Because some older people, may not have the skill set to even do that, but we can all help each other out a little bit, right? I will be sending the link in my WhatsApp group as well. That's at least 400 people. And I'll ask them to share it. And a lot of people have WhatsApp. So hopefully that will help spread the word. So spread it around, folks. Lennon is asking, why are some tourism jobs not restricted to Caymanians, such as tour guides and drivers? The owner must be local, but then staff on permits are used. So I guess that's a bigger question.
There are definitely a lot of things we're learning through this exercise over the last year that this government, particularly me as minister, are looking very, very close at. As you know, I am a very strong pro-Caymanian representative, and I will be bringing some necessary suggestions for us to take steps on, and we'll collectively as a government make those decisions. And I think the PAC administration has proven itself so far that we are going to put Caymanians first. So you can look forward to some positive changes. I want to say one thing I totally forgot to say is that there are many people out there who are probably wondering, well, cruise isn't coming back right away. Stayover may be coming back earlier. So what does it mean for them? I want them to know that I am very aware of that. Hence the reason I said we will make assessments of persons who are receiving the stipend and the amounts of the stipend as we go forward. Because persons who are dependent solely on crews, there's one of two things we're going to have to do. One, continue to allow them to have stipend grants, or try our endeavor best to transition them into stay over where work opportunities will be available. So obviously the top priority would be to try to get them into a job there where they can transition those skill sets. You're still selling the Cayman Islands, the beautiful Cayman kind that we offer, but there's different ways to do that. So that's why the work department, I want to take this opportunity to thank my honorable Deputy Premier and Minister for Labor, who's been working hand in hand with me behind the scenes to do that teamwork of working with the stakeholders of the industry, CETA, as well as the work department, as well as the Ministry of Tourism. So to try to help match up those jobs, and if they're not exactly matched, maybe they can be transitioned to other areas. So those who we are unsuccessful with that, maybe we'll have to assess and say, listen, we genuinely have done everything we can. These persons still can't find ways as until the cruise industry comes back. So maybe we will continue to assist them. So for those who may be listening, and be mindful of that, this government will not leave you behind, but we have to be financially responsible.
So a few people via WhatsApp have commented and said that there are people who are not even in tourism who are getting the stipend. Will anything be done about those individuals, since it was intended to be a displaced tourism employee stipend?
Well, I can't respond to that claim because that's what it is. If there's evidence of a person who's lied to our team or given fraudulent data, then we'll be happy to examine that. But we do have a system within the Department of Tourism where you have to present the necessary documents, and there was a level of dependency on truth, whereby, say, for example, you work for a company, and the company manager has said, this employee has been working with me throughout this time, and maybe, for example, that person lied and the person wasn't really working and cheated the system. Again, as I said before, at the time when the criteria is set, I'm assuming the last ministers and the last government was prioritizing putting money in the pockets of the people. So I understand and I supported them when they did so. And as things are getting better now, it's time for us to start to examine those things a little closer to make sure to catch those who have cheated the system. But that time is not there yet. I think once we've gotten that reopening and worked the solutions with the industry, and we have a solid plan of transitioning persons back to work, I can promise you my team and I will do the necessary things to examine those who may have unfortunately cheated the system in some way, shape, or form. But before I go now, I just want to say thank you so much to my awesome team and the Ministry of Tourism and the Department of Tourism. I truly must say that I have the best team in the whole of government. They work really, really hard. We are the sellers of the most important thing that we have in our country, and that is Cayman itself and its people. I look forward to building some new strategies on selling what we call Cayman kind and everything about us. So I really hope that we can get past this pandemic, get people back to work, so we can get into some new, fresh ideas on how amazing Cayman is. I'm really excited about this post and the team that I have, which is so awesome. I mean, like the data collection and the ideas and strategies that I hope to employ through them. I'm really excited about it, and I hope that the world and the Cayman Islands can get past this pandemic safely, so we can start selling the amazing Cayman that we have, and make sure that Caymanians get some of that foreign money in their pockets to provide for their families and their loved ones.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Minister.
God bless you.
Have a
Cayman
good day.
Road.
Safe
Have a good day.
weekend. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, good folks. So you've heard from the Minister of Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan. He is sharing again the fact that there is this mandatory survey that is online. You've got to fill it out. If you need some assistance filling it out, you can call the department as well. So make every effort if you're a recipient of the stipend, because it is now a requirement. So they will try to track you down. And I think that if they can't find you, they will probably pause your stipend money until they find you and until you get that done. So good morning to Miranda. She says, thank God for Minister Bryan. Nikki says, can you please ask him that if someone else doesn't have a bank account and use someone else's account to get the stipend currently, if that will affect the person getting the stipend. I thought, but Nikki, you can certainly correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought that the bank account, I thought they were matching names and stuff like that, and where the stipend was actually going. So that's news to me. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought that there was some cross-referencing, because I know that there were a lot of people, even for the other types of stipends that were available for businesses and so on, you had to have it like in your name. So they were not going to put it in other people's names. So I don't know how widespread that is, if it is happening, but I guess if you don't have a bank account, how else are you going to get your money? So Sue says, no, it doesn't. Meaning, no, it doesn't have to match. Or Buenos dias, Alba. Damaris, good morning. David says, gun crime in Cayman is at its infancy. We better bend the tree before the gun crime takes a deeper root and destroys our worldwide reputation. Well, we better bend it really. In fact, let's break the tree. Break the limbs of violence off, because this is really, really crazy. So it's unfortunate. It's a very, very unfortunate situation this morning, folks, that we've woken up today to hear of multiple persons being shot. And it looks like at least 3 or 4 people. So the police have officially said 3 in their reports that they've sent out so far, but other people on the streets have said 4 individuals have been shot. So this is what we know so far. Quite an unfortunate situation. Of those, at least 1 person has died. We had some sources who were indicating that there could have been more than 1, but we know for sure that 1 person has died. Such an unfortunate situation. And there are some reports that, again, we give it to you as we get it. We are not in a position to sort of confirm any of this information. So I want to be very, very clear about that, in the sense that we're not detectives and we're not an official part of the RCIPS. But what we do know so far is that the young man who has died, we have seen photos of him. People have identified him by name. They have already put up on social media messages in relation to condolences. And so that young man has passed away. It looks like pretty much at the scene, because there were messages almost immediately last night about his demise. So I said to people this morning, it's crazy, but I swear, anytime I decide to go to bed early, and by early, I mean before 1 o'clock in the morning, something crazy always seems to happen. So we do extend our condolences to this young man's family. So basically, I woke up this morning to like message after message after message that people are like, where are you? Why are you not putting this up? People have been shot. Where's CMR? And I'm like, I actually was sleeping. So, it happened, it looks like right after 11 o'clock. The police were quickly on the scene. I do have persons who made mention of the fact that they were in the vicinity, not at that location, but elsewhere in Georgetown. And they actually heard the numerous gunshots go off. When I say numerous, I mean 12 gunshots. And there are some people who are actually saying that individuals were shot multiple times. So there's a possibility of a second person now dead. that another person may have died. It looks like one person was shot in the leg, so maybe that person's injuries are not quite as severe. But yes, it does look like we have a situation again, waking up this morning to an incident of a mass shooting in the Cayman Islands in an area of Georgetown called Central. Georgetowners call it the East, down in the East. And so we have multiple reports here. Quite a number of people on the streets are saying this is actually in a situation of mistaken identity. We have played part of the video footage that we did receive in relation to this incident. So some people are saying it's actually a case of mistaken identity, that this wasn't the intended victim. So I don't know who the intended victim was, but obviously the police now have a situation on their hands, folks, where they know that this is not going to stop. It's just crazy. They need to get the situation under control as quickly as possible. And I guess the only way to do that is to try to get the people off the streets that are responsible for this. Remember, we said that there was a guy in West Bay who there was 2 people shot recently. Well, 3 people, not all in West Bay. There was 2 in West Bay, one on West Bay Road by Jungle, one during looks like it was an attempted armed robbery. And then there was one by Everglow Bar in town. So there are pockets of things really popping off here. And normally what you see happening is in quick succession, you have retaliatory situations. So people are going to retaliate. If they think that you shot them, they're going to come looking for you. And so a lot of times they do that at very public places, which is kind of crazy. So the word on the street is that the shooting that happened in West Bay is alleged to have taken place by someone from Central, and they were coming to retaliate against him, whoever that person is. But instead, an innocent man may have been caught in the crossfire. And so a lot of people are very, very concerned this morning about, what has happened. So yes, the stories and the reports, unofficial reports, obviously, are flying in this morning in terms of what actually has happened. If you know anything, let me say this, folks, if you know anything, you've got to be willing to come forward and speak to the authorities. The police will obviously need some assistance. They can't solve the best of crimes really without any assistance from the public. Let me reword that. When I say the best of crimes, I mean the most straightforward. It looks straightforward, but they always seem to need the public's assistance. So do what you can, folks, to assist the police and the authorities if you know anything that can be helpful to them. Dave is joining us, says, good morning, Sandra. Keep up the good work by keeping Cayman informed. Thank you. So in relation to the stipend suit, says it doesn't affect the other person. If you don't have a bank account, then you get a check. And so Sherry Ann confirms that the person gets a check and not put into someone else's bank account. That's in relation to the tourism stipend. So spread the word, folks. The minister was on this morning, and obviously there's a survey, a mandatory survey that you should be completing if you're a stipend of tourism displacement stipend recipient. So please pass the word along if you know some elderly people, again, that don't have access to a computer or they can't do it on their phone. Have them, assist them in some way to get this done. Stephen wants to know about the tropical storm. The tropical storm is actually now a hurricane, 75 miles per hour as of this morning. So the good news is that this storm, I'm just going to pull up Elsa, Hurricane Elsa now, Looks like we will maybe get some of the outer bands of this, but it seems to be moving more north of us, which is obviously a good thing. So on Instagram and YouTube, folks, I'm going to just pull up the 8:30 advisory, which would have been an hour ago. So like 7:30 our time, basically. So here we are, hurricane conditions expected, Barbados, and hurricane warning in the area in the next few hours. Tropical storm conditions are expected to begin later this morning. And other portions of the Windward and Leeward Islands, tropical storm conditions are expected and hurricane conditions are possible over southern portions of Hispaniola. On Saturday, tropical storm conditions are possible over Jamaica beginning on Saturday night. Heavy rainfall from Elsa will move quickly across the Windward and southern Leeward Islands today, including Barbados. Outer rain bands will impact Puerto Rico late today into Saturday, and southern Hispaniola and Jamaica Saturday into Sunday. Flooding and mudslides possible for those countries. There's a risk of wind and rainfall impacts in portions of Cuba, the Turks and Caicos, and the Bahamas through early next week. Interest in those areas should continue to monitor. Let me just read what our local weather authorities have sent out as well. So they sent out something this morning at 5:39. Oh, wait, my apologies, at 7:45. So just an FYI, by the way, the DCFS office is closed for today to accommodate some sort of a staff meeting that they're having. So if you're trying to go to DCFS, they are closed today. So let me just have another look at what our local authorities have issued. So this is the first one is coming from the National Hurricane Center. And then on the local front, they have said that this hurricane Elsa is now, they should give you the coordinates there, 40 miles, 65 kilometers west of Barbados. It looks like Barbados may get the brunt of this. And movement, it's still moving pretty quickly. It's a fast moving storm at 28 miles per hour and maximum sustained winds at 75 miles per hour with higher gusts. And its current projections is that it will hold. And they say here, although they still have it, this is a typo in their little thing here, because they still have it called Tropical Storm Elsa down at the bottom. But of course, that's Hurricane Elsa, is expected to be within our area in the next 60 hours. On this path, tropical storm force winds are not likely to affect the sister islands. Let's hope not. However, fresh, strong winds are still likely, with lower winds, speed likely over Grand Cayman, heavy showers, and so on. So let me just see if okay. Just checking our sources at the weather center here in the Cayman Mountains as well. So yes, folks, that's where we are with the storm. It looks like there has been a movement that is in our favor, favorable to us, not so much to the poor people of Barbados, but unfortunately, somebody's got to take their licks when it comes to hurricane or storm, right? So shall we just be praying that it ain't us? Some morning to Stephen King. Big shout out. George Fullerton is here. Good morning, George. He says that he hasn't been on the airwaves for a little while, but he's shocked at the news of the day. Magdalene says that she thought it wasn't true because I had not posted it. So yes, honey child, sometimes even CMR needs to get a little R&R. So yesterday was a super long day, and I went to bed like after 10, 11-ish. Like it must have been right before this happened, to be honest. So it's quite a crazy situation, to say the least. So let's read some of the IG comments. Thank you to our IG folks tuned in. So Locust and Honey says, people out there with guns, they bad, man. Like really shooting wild like it's in the cartoons. What happened to fighting with fists? That's long gone, honey child. Louisa says it's crazy. At the boy, Shotty says police ain't gonna do SHID. Ricardo says, I said it before, Sandy, some people, some incident was gonna get hurt. The ministry needs shake up the police force. Some months ago, 9 officers came to my house, and only one came in, and we need back the old school officers we had years ago, like Mr. Blackman and Mr. Miles. Peter is joining us. Good morning, Peter. Good morning to Neville. I survived Ivan and Cayman. So Jay Quinlan is trying to be funny, so he will get blocked today. Congratulations to you, young man. We don't do the IG feed often, and when we do, when people come on here and do their immature shenanigans, rest assured that all you're doing is getting yourself blocked. Grow up. Try it on for so J_Quinlan is now blocked. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's done. Yeah, folks, I mean, some of them IG people need to grow up. Like, seriously. So Stacy says you gotta get your sleep too, for real. I mean, some days are just a little bit rough. And then my daughter wasn't really feeling that well either. So I think that's why I was kind of like, let me just lay down with her. And then sometimes you lay down and you're just like, I'm going to stay sleeping. So Nikki, okay. So maybe there's some clarification you can get from that. Sue, good morning. So yeah, I think that at the end of the day, the police will be out in full force this weekend for sure. Some people mention that the police are only good for traffic stops. Well, perhaps, but one thing I will say is the benefit of traffic stops is a lot of people who are involved in these gun activities actually are traveling in a vehicle. So they're not walking from West Bay to go shoot somebody in Central. They need a car. So sometimes these traffic stops can be very, very useful in terms of picking up individuals. I find a lot of people who don't follow the rules when it comes to more serious crime and gang violence and so on. A lot of times they don't follow the simple rules either. They're not going to have their vehicle registered, for example. Cameras are very, very useful. We saw in a recent trial with the Tortuga robbery case where that trial, a new date was set and it was, sort of vacated to set a date later in September-ish. That in fact, there's a lot of cameras around the place that are smart cameras. They're capturing your license plate information, your registration information, and they're able to identify vehicles. So I'm sure the police have already started pulling CCTV footage in the area of Central and the roads that lead into Central, because let's be honest, Cayman ain't that big. So there's only so many roads that go into certain areas. And I'm sure the detectives working this case have already begun, pulling footage wherever they can to identify cars that may have come in and out of the area and to try to see what was going on. So some of our astute viewers this morning made mention of the fact that some of our astute viewers did mention the fact that these guys may have gone through Central. No, sorry, they ran through Scranton, my apologies, in order to get in and out. So I'm sure the police are aware of this and they're looking at the entire surrounding area, right? So Central and Scranton are all very close and super connected areas. So another person's asking, what is the police commissioner's take on the recent spike in crime? We will certainly ask him. Perhaps we've been trying to get him on the program. Perhaps this is now an opportunity for him to come and address the people directly. So we will reach out again to him and extend the invitation. Another report coming in that there was 2 fire trucks this morning at the Esso gas station on Hell Road, a couple minutes before 6 o'clock. And they said that they were just leaving out and the entrance and exit was closed off at the gas station. They're not sure what that was all about. So I think they will definitely be a heightened presence from the police. And again, folks, if you know something, this is where, help the police out. The police don't know everything that's going on. And so, it is what it is. If you help them solve crimes, I think we'll all feel safer. So a big shout out to Everything 345. He says, they say here, good morning from the 345 family. We love them over at Everything 345. Ricardo says, have an enjoyable Friday and long holiday weekend, Sandy, and everyone else in your live. Yes, folks, let's try to be safe out there. Gabby, thank you. She said the storm never had her bothered. I'm sorry, just had to. You sound like Elsa, girl. The cold never bothered me anyway. Guns here out of control. Now they need to get a grip, says Sue. Cayman doesn't need a kind of storm or hurricane. Things already hard as it is. Praying for the Caribbean island, says Marshall. Who is this? A1 says, what idiot said fireworks should be forbidden? Well, there's a lot of people who might share that opinion. Jonathan, no word on any arrest in relation to what happened last night. No, not as yet. So Rudy is saying for us to please say prayer for all in the path of Hurricane Elsa, for sure. I mean, even a 75-mile-per-hour hurricane can do significant damage. Sue says, I think that everyone who's living in these areas should get cameras. Well, Sue, not just in those areas, because crime flows over into all sorts of areas. Cameras help after the fact. So, somebody's already dead, possibly 2 people now already dead as a result of this. So cameras may help in the apprehension of individuals or bringing people to justice. But I think our focus needs to be on, everybody get a camera, sure. But our focus really should be on the fact that we need to address the underlying issues that lead to criminality here in the Cayman Islands. And the thing is, we have spent millions of dollars getting so-called expert reports. So I feel like we know what the issues are. We just need programs that work, and we need people that care about those issues and want to do something about it. It's a revolving door in the court system. So, all the time, it's one of those things where you will find that it's the same people over and over and over again involved in incidents, and it kind of escalates. Maybe initially they're involved in drugs, and then it goes from drugs to other types of activities. But you've got to curtail that criminal element and the criminal mentality from as early on as possible. So I would make that recommendation. Loretta, good morning. Happy Friday. Louis says, beautiful morning. Thank you so much, Louis. Louis has got his CMR mug, and he's helped to get the mug elsewhere. John from Detroit has got, hold on now, his CMR mug. Now, Louis, is John one of your friends? So we're going to post this picture up here. Thank you so much. He got a number of friends that now have CMR mugs. So this is John from Detroit enjoying the Cold Hard Truth, his Cold Hard Truth mug. We're hoping that by next week, we will be able to get the shipment of mugs that we have ordered, and then we'll start dispersing those once they arrive on island. So we do have a whole list of people who are waiting to get a mug. Ervelyn says even when they get camera images and evidence, they still want eyewitnesses, and people do not speak because of fear of retaliation. Well, here is a thing that people may not know about things like camera footage. A camera can't testify in court. So certain things need what's called a primary or a live witness to be explained. So that's why even when you have things like camera footage, etc., they always have to get an investigator on the stand to go through and present to the court what that is in his or hers, so-called expert opinion. A lot of people don't understand the rules of evidence when it comes to things in court. And I want to talk about something that popped off on, I think it was Wednesday of this week, where there was breaking news that Bill Cosby was released from prison because I think it's the Pennsylvania Supreme Court actually overturned his conviction. And this is a prime example of how evidence works, right? So his conviction was overturned on a technicality. This isn't the court saying that he's innocent. This is not this isn't what's happening. The court has no commentary on his guilt or innocence. What instead has happened is that the court has indicated that the way in which the prosecution handled his case has gone against the due process rights that he's entitled to as a victim. So it is a little bit of a sometimes difficult thing to explain to non-legal persons, but here, let me try to do my best to explain exactly what happened. So he was serving a 3 to 10 year sentence in prison for sexual assault conviction. And he was released from prison on Wednesday after his attorneys appealed the conviction to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They overturned his 2018 conviction for sexual assault and what was considered an extremely high-profile case during the hashtag #MeToo movement. The reason why they were looking at several key things in their consideration of the situation. Bill Cosby is 83 years old. But one of the things that they looked at is the agreement that he had with a former prosecutor. So this is why this case, basically his conviction was overturned. So at some point that a previous prosecutor who, interestingly enough, was one of the advisors, one of the legal advisors that made up the Trump team. Super interesting. You talk about money and the people that move in that circle, right? So they came to an agreement with Bill Cosby that if he gave a deposition in a civil case, that deposition would never be used against him in a criminal case. So that was called a non-prosecution agreement. So they agreed to not prosecute him based on that deposition. That deposition was extremely damaging to this man. Anyone with a little bit of legal knowledge and understanding, despite whether you like Bill Cosby or not, you have to admit that what was in that civil deposition, which eventually was used to convict him, he is a predator. There's no two ways to cut it. And I don't, I know some of y'all are into, oh, he's a black man and he's being unfairly treated and blah, blah, blah. Listen, predators come in all shapes and sizes. Black, white, probably even orange men like the former president. Some have money, They have access to money, that which gives them access to a lot of things, including really good lawyers to pull things apart. And at the end of the day, this man is guilty of sin. No one can tell me otherwise. No one can tell me that 70 plus women are going to come forward and accuse the father of America of such heinous crimes as drugging them and sexually assaulting them just because he's a Black man. This man has enjoyed a life like nobody else, no other Black man in America, to the point where he didn't even think he was Black. He was out there lambasting Black people and talking about y'all ain't no good because you are Black, and he is Black and privileged. So somehow that made him a better person. You guys will remember some of the comments that he's made over the years. But anyway, the accusations were heavy. And there was a lot of them. And he was convicted. He was arrested in 2015 on charges that he had drugged and sexually assaulted a woman at his home in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia suburbs, 11 years earlier. So he was doing this. He was prolific, if you believe his victims, which I personally do. He was a prolific offender for the better half of like 50 plus years. So in April of 2018, the jury convicted him of 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault against Andrea Constand. And apparently she had said that he had been a mentor to her at the time, and she was a Temple University employee. So what had now happened is they went back, because he had actually given this deposition, like I said, in another matter, and they basically said that they were not going to charge him. They weren't going to use that civil deposition against him in a criminal case. And a new prosecutor went back on that decision. And unfortunately, in the judicial system in the US anyway, maybe not Cayman, but in the US, when you make a promise like that or an agreement like that, you have to stick with it. So former district attorney of Montgomery County had given Mr. Cosby his assurance that he would not be charged in the case, which is quite interesting, right? Then he claimed in this is Bruce Castor Jr., then he claimed in this press release that there was insufficient evidence. Clearly there wasn't, because subsequently in 2015, on the same evidence that he claimed was insufficient evidence, a jury convicted Cosby. But he made a deal with this prosecutor basically, and told him that he would not hold this against him, right? So he settled the civil case for $3.38 million. So for those of you who think that this woman was going after the pocketbook, as a lot of you have made in your comments, that's not the case, because she already had her coins from 2006 when the incident actually happened, and she reported it to the police. So he gave this deposition, and in the deposition, he acknowledges giving women quaaludes before pursuing them for sex. And that was evidence that played a key role in, his conviction in 2015. Drugging a woman to get her to have sex with you is actually against the law. And that's rape, because then she can't consent. She's not in a position to consent if she is under the influence. And especially in this situation where he has given them the drugs unbeknownst to the women. And he admitted that in a civil deposition. Y'all need to go read that civil deposition, because this man clearly has some issues. So he was charged in December of 2015, just days before the 12-year statute of limitations expired. And there was a number of new allegations at the time that was surfacing about him. So I think the prosecutors decided to revisit this case. And unfortunately, they made the decision that now the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania says violated Cosby's due process rights. So in the US, you do have a right to certain things like due process. The English system is so different, because even in the English system, if a search warrant gets thrown out and is found to be unlawful, they can still proceed and prosecute you and get a conviction. In the US, that would never happen, things like a search warrant issue is fatal to the case continuing and fatal to conviction. And this is what happened in this case. This technicality was fatal to the conviction, and it was overturned. So he's already in deals with doing a documentary about his story. That's how crazy this situation is. The court of public opinion is obviously, divided on this somewhat. Mr. Castor served again as a lawyer for President Trump during his second impeachment trial. After the ruling was delivered on Wednesday, he claims that his original decision was exonerated. So unbelievable. So there you have it. He walks away a free man, and there's tons of women out there who say that they have been victimized by him. But this goes back to how evidence is handled and used in different jurisdictions. So in the US, like I said, situations are very, very different. Cayman, you can't just stick up a video evidence and says that prove X, Y, or Z. They actually need the assistance of the public to come forward. So, Louis, thank you for that information. Big shout out to John from Detroit. So, it is what it is. And we will obviously continue to bring these things to light. Here in the Cayman Islands, again, folks, we're waking up this morning to news of possibly a double homicide. We're just waiting on confirmation from the police. But some people have confirmed that, or they have said that another person has been killed as a result of a mass shooting incident last night, where at least 3 or 4 people were shot. So, yeah. All right, folks. So we will continue to update you on the details of this incident as and when we know more. It's a sad situation regardless. I mean, whether someone is I guess a gangster, a wannabe gangster, whatever we're going to call them, at the end of the day, they are still somebody's family member. And normally these guys have children that now will be growing up without a father. And that is quite unfortunate. Really sad. So I don't know if you guys heard this news. What's her name? Sha'Carri Richardson, an Olympic gold medal favorite in the 100 meters, has been found now to have tested positive for marijuana, and she has been suspended for a month. So this is quite unfortunate. She's the young lady that wears the orange hair. You can kind of see that it's a wig in this picture because it's not even fixed down properly. Maybe she's running so fast it lifts the wig. I don't know, or the hairpiece or whatever it is. But yes, she is very, very unfortunate. But she has now put herself in an unfortunate situation. Tested positive for marijuana, folks. If you're an athlete and you're doing certain things in your life, no, sir. you can't really do those things. It's unfortunate. Yes, Devu. That's the news this morning. That's the breaking news. Possibly a second person has died, but again, we're waiting for confirmation on that. Really, really sad situation. All right, folks. So we do have an alert from Home Gas. Again, thankfully, it looks like this storm is going to miss us, which we're most grateful about. However, it's very, very important that we remember safety tips. for all sorts of things. And propane, those of us who use propane tanks, there are special considerations and special safety tips for those situations. So we are going to play a video now. We'll go ahead and end the Instagram feed. Instagram folks, if you want to jump on YouTube or Facebook to see this, you certainly can. But we're going to go ahead and end the Instagram feed and pull up this video for others to see. Unfortunately, the way the Instagram is, we can't quite share a video like that on live. So to the Instagram folks, have a wonderful, safe weekend. It's Constitution weekend. Please be safe on the roadways. Don't drink and drive. Don't do any drugs and drive. And don't do any drugs. They're not legal. Even the legal drugs, if you don't need them, stay away from them. So Instagram folks, we shall see you guys on the other side. YouTube and Facebook, we will show you this educational video from Home Gas. Again, they're Cayman's #1 propane suppliers. So check it out here now. So again, pending storms, this is what you need to know about your tanks of any size, shape. Here you go. So good afternoon, folks. We're here with a manager at Home Gas who's going to walk us through a few safety considerations as everyone starts to think about hurricane season and how to prepare yourselves for any impending storms or hurricanes that may be coming your way. So we're just days out of obviously watching a development that's out there right now. So good afternoon, Chris.
Afternoon, how you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to do a little tutorial session here, inform our viewers at the Home Gas plant located right off of Walker's Road and what you need to do in the event of a storm that's coming. So we do have several tanks that are on display here. So if you've got different types of tanks, now tell us a little bit about each one of these and who might actually have like the little mini one versus the big one.
Absolutely. So just in light of Tropical Storm Elsa, I think it is, that's on our way through the Caribbean, thought that it would be a good time for a storm awareness, storm check of first and foremost how to turn your tank on and off in situations. So firstly, we'll start with the little barbecue cylinder. It's called a 20-pound cylinder, also known as a barbecue cylinder. It's a very simple to turn it on, to turn it off. You just twist the valve on the top. This here, it will be where it connects to the barbecue. It may be with some form of hose. It will be the only cylinder, only canister that's allowed to have a rubber hose attached to it. Anything else would be a breach of the code. But it's simple, on and off would just be to turn the valve to the left or to the right.
So if you have a barbecue grill, for example, that's sitting out on your back patio, you'd recommend turning it off?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. In a strong wind, it could blow, which we certainly don't want, but at the very least to have it turned off takes away any undue safety concerns.
Right. Okay, wonderful. And should this be the sort of thing, I'm thinking for this little tiny tank, like if you're not using it, should you just turn it off when it's not in use anyway?
By and large, most people would do, particularly for a barbecue. It's going to be outdoors for 2, 3, 4 days or weeks or whatever without use. So far easier to turn it off when it's not being used anyway.
Yes, good habit. Okay.
And it must never ever be put inside.
This one should never go inside?
None of them. No propane cylinder or tank,
right.
no matter how big, should ever be put inside, especially in a storm.
Wow, okay, that's good to know. Because see, I would have thought, oh, just stick that in the garage or the utility room, don't put it inside.
It needs to be in a ventilated space, otherwise it's just going to accumulate and it's not a good situation.
Yeah, okay, good advice, folks. This is why we're here with the experts.
Thank you, Ish. Moving on to what we call the 100-pound cylinder. This would be used for a lot of domestic installations, particularly if you've got, say, a cooktop and what we would call a back-to-back. So it would be one side of the wall and your stove or something would be the other. Again, very similar. It's on the right-hand side. You just twist it right or left to turn it on and off. This here would be where it connects to the house. So all very simple. Just if there's a storm coming, twist it off and be on the safe side.
Right. Okay, wonderful. All right.
100-pound cylinder
100 pounds.
is one of the more common cylinders that we see on island at the moment.
Okay. All right, folks, that's the 100-pound, and then we've got the really big one over on this side.
And then we move on to what we would describe as being bulk. So with these type of cylinders, this is where the driver will fill it at your house rather than exchanging or taking one bottle for another. So this one is a 200-pound. We also have the 420-pound cylinders that are common in restaurants and houses. And these would be kind of the larger vertical tanks. Again, very similar. These ones actually come with a gauge, so you can see how much gas you have in your tank at any given time. We would fill it through here, and again, to turn on and off would be just to twist the knob on the left hand or right hand side. Very simple, very straightforward, and always best done when there's a storm coming.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about how to read the gauge so that you can tell how much gas you actually have?
Yeah, so obviously you would think that you could fill up to 100%. Because of the chemical composition of propane, it expands and contracts with temperature fluctuations. So by code, we are only allowed to fill it to 80%, which is why on a gauge itself, you would only see it is a maximum of 80% numerically. And so we would fill anywhere from 0 to 80. When you hit to 30, 20 or 30% is when we would suggest giving us a call to get a top up. You don't want it to go too low, particularly if there is a storm coming. But otherwise, yeah, it's this tank is empty, but you have a needle on the gauge that says where the corresponding amount is.
Right. So you think it's okay to wait until 30% and call you guys, or should we be aiming for a little bit higher than that during storm season?
During storm season, let's say June, July, always best just to get topped up anyway. You want to make sure that you've got a full tank of gas in any scenario. Hopefully not any scenario, but just in case. So yeah, always best to have more than less gas.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I was in the office earlier and I heard a lot of people actually calling in, make some last minute calls ahead of the weekend saying, you know, I want to make sure that I get my gas. So it's always better to call in, because I'm sure you guys are going to be working extra hard over the next couple of days. Do you work on weekends in terms of fuel delivery, or what's your delivery schedule like?
We do. It's strange timing that we have a storm coming on a bank holiday weekend. So
Right.
typically we would be closed on Sunday, Monday, to give the guys a welcome breather. We do deliver on Saturdays. We obviously deliver Monday to Friday. Make sure that we deliver same day for any delivery that's called in before midday on any day. So if you do need a delivery, give us a call before midday for same day. Otherwise, it will be the next business day.
Awesome. All right, now there's some other tanks there. Are those tanks that people actually get, or what are these? These look super large.
So once you get past the 420, you get to a 250, a 500, a 1,000, a 2,000 gallon, which would be a horizontal tank.
Yeah.
These ones are above ground. You also have the below ground, which are exactly the same shape and size. It's exactly the same nature in terms of how to fill it, in terms of how to turn it off. You have your valve again, just to turn it on and off. You have your gauge, so you can see how much you have. You have here where it connects to your house, and so it's exactly the same. It's just a larger tank. Ordinarily, for a lot of the houses, particularly those with generators that are being built, you'd have these tanks that are being put underground now, and they're connecting to everything that you would need for your domestic usage.
Right. How do you turn it off if it's underground?
It's exactly the same. You'd have it's kind of a lid with a manhole cover type thing. You'd prise the lid open, you would reach down no more than 20-30 centimeters to be able to reach, and you twist.
So this bit stays above ground.
It's within reach. It's underground, but still within reach.
Within reach. Okay, awesome. Very interesting. Well, folks, we trust that this has been an educational session for you. If you're a propane user, remember safety first. That's always the first concern. Here at Home Gas, they're giving you some good hurricane safety tips. So this is the first tip, one of many that will be coming your way, and they're doing a lot of things here at Home Gas, so you'll be seeing more of them on the CMR platform, so please stay tuned. So what else are you guys doing just in preparation for a pending storm?
So for the storm this weekend, we have every single service technician that is now on call from Friday evening. We don't anticipate it coming too close to Cayman, but if there are any fluctuations or deviations in the storm path, then we'll make sure that we have plenty of folk on standby. We will also have every driver on call, ready for deliveries, emergency deliveries. I wasn't here for Ivan, but I was reliably told that we were on the road the next day. So we would obviously make sure that we're in that same position to be able to help the community as and when we need to.
Okay, wonderful. Chris, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
All right, folks. So again, Home Gas located in Walkers Road. Telephone number in case anyone needs to call.
949-7474.
All right, so give them a call if you have any questions, but hopefully you've learned something here today on how to securely turn off your tanks, and those that have the gauge reader to tell you how much propane you actually have left. Now you know exactly how to read it.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right, folks. Again, a big shout out to the folks over at Home Gas. Brought you what I thought was a very, very important safety tip. I am a propane user, and you'd be surprised how much you do not know. Like legit, I never thought about it, but I didn't think there'd be an issue putting a small tank inside. Thank God I don't have a barbecue grill, chill, because I might have been blowing up the place. But these tanks, regardless of the size, apparently require proper ventilation. So there you go. So again, thank you guys so much, Home Gas, for bringing us that helpful hurricane tip. Look forward to getting more hurricane tips from them. We are, folks, July the 2nd in hurricane season. We now have the first hurricane that we're all kind of watching in this area, which is Hurricane Elsa. Imagine we're already in the E's for the hurricane season in terms of the naming of storms. So there's been a few storms out there already. As you know, every hurricane season, they restart the alphabet with the letter A. I've been reliably informed that they're actually going to do away with the Greek alphabet, and that instead they're going to just add more names to the regular alphabet to accommodate all of the hurricanes. That's probably a tall order, but we'll see. We will be speaking to Mr. John Tibbetts a bit later on, and we'll be bringing you that. He is the Cayman Islands weather. His official title is, I think, Weather General. I'll have to get the official title, but he's like basically your chief weatherman here on the island. So we'll be hearing a bit more from him. We will watch the storm, and as things progress, we'll probably pull up a couple live feeds for you guys to be able to see as the storm hits some of the other Caribbean islands. So Barbados, we have you in our thoughts and prayers. Even Jamaica will probably get some heavy rain and mudslides and stuff from the storm as well. So again, we, our hearts go out to you guys. We're always thinking about you because it doesn't take much, unfortunately, for these things to, mudslides to cause lots of property damage and even death at some time. So folks, it is a long holiday weekend. Constitution Day is on Monday. We wish you all a safe weekend. Please, please, please do your best to remain inside and, just inside. That's not what I meant to say. Do your best to just remain safe. You can go outside unless there's heavy rain, and then you probably should stay inside anyway. But, do your best, folks, to just remain safe over the weekend. Holiday weekend, something always seems to happen. So it's already started on a crazy note last night. We will bring you updates and when they are available on that shooting incident. Again, Cayman Islands, sadly, reporting a mass shooting this morning. So that's all I got for you. You guys have a wonderful weekend. There's Rib Fest this weekend. Rib Fest? I think so. Go out, get some good food, and be safe. Yep. All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. CE Banks, have a wonderful weekend. Miss Morna was here, Marshall, everybody listening to us from Jamaica, the UK, Canada, the US, all over the world. We appreciate the love and support.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.